at the heart of understanding our relationship with nature is understanding our relationship with biodiversity and with carbon. But to have any meaningful and long-term change, we've got to really get into the hearts and minds of both the leadership teams and the people that work in our businesses. And after 10 years of working in startups, charity, technology, and online advertising, I took a year off and lived in the woods, which is where I connected with nature. And so at the heart of doing carbon accounting, taking accountability and responsibility for the impact we have and relationship we have with nature, we also have to find ways to connect with nature in new ways. Because if we don't connect with something, we don't know it. If we don't know it, we don't care about it. And otherwise it will just be a box ticking exercise. And that is not the kind of passion that engages and motivates employees and customers. And so that's really at the heart of the work I do, is to try and take people off grid, out of the box, out of the place they normally do the day to day, and get them inspired and motivated to see the world in a whole new way. The human challenge has always been to discover fire, learn how to harness it without burning our house down. And artificial intelligence is at the heart of this new technological wave, which is as powerful as us finding fire in the first instance all those years ago. And so the challenge is, how can we develop the tools and have the wisdom to know how to use them to develop our lives and society, not to destroy it. And so with every new tool comes an opportunity and a threat. And we see this in the social dilemma around social media. We're seeing a brand new opportunity now with ChatGPT. And as I've said, it's about being on grid and off grid, using technology and tools, figuring out how to harness them most effectively, and then stepping away from them to be able to get the wide angle lens to look in on them and think about how can we use them to support the behaviors that we care most about in our businesses and in society. And so it's about going in and coming out that helps us to develop that wisdom to make sure that we are using these technologies fundamentally to connect us to nature, not to separate us from it, to regenerate it, not to extract from it, because it won't work even in the medium term, let alone the long term. That's a great question. How can businesses maintain a startup mindset? This year I've been working with the Crown Estate, who are pretty much as long-term as an organization as you can thinking about their implications over 300 years. We've been trying to crack open the doors to develop a lab culture, an innovation mindset, a safe place, a playground where they can meet new characters, new businesses, new projects, get inspired by new and different ways of thinking, and put those into practice without putting the whole ship at jeopardy. And so really, I think that a startup culture is an experimental culture, an innovative culture, one that understands play, uses its intuition, forages ideas and puts them together to go from 0 to 1. But it's just not safe to do that at scale when you're running a successful organization. And so we love creating little safe places and a set of language and a culture that goes with it to get excited about telling the stories that come from those playful areas within businesses. With every compounding advancement in web technology specifically, the world is moving faster and faster. And so we have to adapt and cultivate a better learning, creativity, and reflective process in order to keep up with the adapting changes that we need to be able to integrate and bring into the culture of our businesses. So never before has it been more valuable than to learn how to take time to step away from the work and the tools that we're using in order to think about how to continually update our operating system to make sure not just the apps, but the fundamental operating system that we're running in our business is in the mindset and in the tools that we use is actually fit for purpose week in, week out, year in, year out, because otherwise we'll be left behind. With the great reset of lockdown, we all accelerated into a remote working culture, which for many was amazing, for others was lonely. But what we all agree on is that we lost something of the quality of being present in the room together. But I don't think we want to go back fully to the way things were either. So the way I see the future of work is hybrid. It's embracing both the hyperlocal and the global, the presence and the distance, the machine and biology, learning how to craft better questions, not necessarily needing to know the answers. I've never seen a time before where the art of crafting a powerful and specifically accurate question is more useful. Everything I've ever done has been a personal journey of creativity, learning, reflecting, and then going again and producing something new. And that's the stories and real lived experience that I try and bring when I come and share with an audience. I'm not actually a fan of a monologue, not fan of a one-way interaction. I'm a big believer in co-creativity, that imagination that gets cultivated and shared when we have dynamic interaction. So in every space that I get to come and share with an audience, I try to make that audience into a community that shares this co-creative space, which is what I find to be the most powerful kind of interaction that changes hearts and minds, that develops culture, and ultimately inspires people beyond the walls of the room that we're sitting in. Every time I have the privilege of sharing my story and what I've been up to with an audience, my hope is that we'll use the first part of the session as inspiration, a chance to lead by going first, by being vulnerable, by being honest about the successes and failures. And then the magic is really when we turn that dynamic around, and when we really start asking and pulling from the crowd, turning that audience from consumers to co-creators. That is where the long-term benefits come from, where the cultural shift actually begins to happen, where it's using my stories to find the stories inside the businesses that we're speaking to, in order that those seeds might grow and germinate in the culture of the business long after the speech finishes. And so I hope that it's the conversations that happen over coffees and teas at the end of my speech that really will be where the excitement is, and that I'm just there as a conduit to getting to that investment to be realized inside the life of the business.